Greetings, fellow film fans. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Mercy, and this is the Funny Pajamas YouTube channel. So, we're getting our next bout of MCU content in the form of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Now, episode 1 dropped last week and I wasn't able to cover it. I'm so sorry for that. Please forgive me. But I do plan to cover all the episodes going up further ahead. So, yesterday, episode 2 dropped and we pick up from last week, and this week we start off straight with the introduction of John Walker, who is the new Captain America. But before I go further ahead, I'd like to tell you guys straight on ahead, as mentioned in the title down below, this is a spoiler heavy discussion. So there's going to be spoilers galore. So if you haven't watched this latest episode yet, please go check it out, save this for later, and then come back and watch this. So why don't we get straight down to it? Oh, and before we begin, why don't you smash that like and subscribe button, become a subscriber to my channel if you haven't done so already. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I post something new. So let's get down to it. We begin straight off with the introduction of John Walker. At the end of the last episode, we see they have a new Captain America. The government has set up someone else to wear the mantle when Sam gives up the shield. Now, we do know that this was not Sam's intention. And this sort of pisses off Sam and Bucky to a great extent. So we start off with a sort of an introduction, a cold opening to, to John Walker's character. John Walker is the guy who is now the new Captain America, and he's, they sort of introduce him. I like the way they introduced him, through him making an appearance at his old alma mater at a football game, and then he's being interviewed during the, just before the game begins on Good Morning America. So before he enters, he's in the locker room and he visits his old, locker stuff and all. And we get an idea of how he feels, Like a couple of weeks ago, he was just an ordinary soldier. He was like maybe a pretty good one, but he was just an ordinary soldier following his orders. Now he's got big shoes to fill, the shoes of Steve Rogers. And he's got lots more responsibility. He's all of a sudden become a symbol. And you can see from the gist of the conversations that happened that between him and his best friend, that this is not exactly what, he had thought. He just wants to go out there and help people. So anyway, they kick off with that. Meanwhile, and Bucky's pretty pissed with Sam. He's like, why did you hand over the shield? Steve gave you that shield. He trusted you. He had faith in you. Why did you just hand it over? And Sam's like, see, I have my reasons, okay, man. I don't want to talk to you. And Sam's he's off on a mission to track down the Flag Smashers. Now, the Flag Smashers were introduced in the first episode. They're kind of this group that wants the world to go back to how it was before the blip happened. It means before half the population of the world returned again. So they want a world where there are no boundaries. Sort of their slogan is one world, one people. So they've got like a mass network. And they seem to be creating a lot of trouble and chaos all over. So Sam is on their tail and he's tracked them down to this warehouse somewhere. So he's off to, stop them and get more answers. Bucky he starts arguing with Sam, and then he's like, okay, I'm tagging along. And he also tags along. So they go by plane. Falcon just jumps off and he flies, and Bucky sort of like, he doesn't have a parachute, so he just jumps and lands flat on his back, and he, being the super soldier that he is, nothing happens to him. So they reach the warehouse, and Bucky's like, come on, there are only 2 to 3 guys there, we can take them easily, and then Sam's like, okay, no, just look carefully, and he uses his tech and he sees that there are actually 8 people, where one seems to be a hostage. So they're like, okay, we got to release the hostage. So these people are loading crates into 2 trucks. And once the trucks set off, Falcon and the Winter Soldier go off in pursuit. Now, Bucky manages to enter one of the container trucks, and the container truck which is supposed to be housing the hostage, and he finds her. Now, this hostage, as it were, ends up being one of the bad guys, one of the Flag Smashers. And soon Sam and Bucky find out that all of these 8 Flag Smashers are in fact super soldiers. And then we have our first big action set piece of this episode. And there's like this fight sequence going on top of the carrier trucks. And Sam and Bucky are not really doing well. And just as things are progressing, John Walker, the new Captain America, comes in along with his team and he also joins in the fray. But despite what happens, them being 8 super soldiers against these 3 to 4 guys, they it does not end well for them. They end up losing, and the 2 trucks with the flag smashers manage to escape. So Bucky and Sam are now stranded somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and they start walking back. And Sam and Bucky are like they keep on bickering. They're like an old married couple, They keep on bickering amongst each other, and just as they like there's no place. As far as the eye can see, there doesn't seem to be any habitation. So they decide, okay, let's just walk. While they are walking, a jeep comes by, and in it is Walker and his team, and they're like, come on guys, you need a ride, we'll give you a ride, come on, why don't you get in? And we see that Bucky is blatantly hostile towards them. He's like, no, I don't want to. He doesn't even bother to talk most of the time. He clearly shows his displeasure that he hates this guy. Sam, on the other hand, seems a very conflicted. He definitely doesn't like the new Captain America. He resents him, definitely. But he's not so openly or so overtly hostile towards him. But anyway, they decide to, join them, and they hitch a ride with them. During this ride, Walker tries to get them to join him and his team, and Bucky is like, no way, I'm not going to this, that she doesn't belong to you. You're not the real Captain America. And Walker just basically, he tries his best to get, but eventually he ends up saying, he comes off wrong, he always ends up saying the wrong thing. So finally, Bucky and Sam decide to part ways with John Walker. They turn down his offer to join him, and he's kind of like, we're the government, we can take care, that sort of thing. But they're like, no way, we don't want to join you and all that. And they walk off. Now, when Bucky and Sam are walking away, Bucky's just like, why don't we just steal the shield back from him? And Sam's like, no, we can't do that. It belongs to him now, and they start discussing about the leads they have or the lack thereof. And Bucky's like, there is one guy we can go to. So then we see Bucky and Sam heading towards this really rundown, decrepit neighborhood. And there's this shabby old house there. And then Bucky knocks on the door and asks for a guy named Isaiah. So at first the kid who answers the door is like, there isn't anyone with that name here. And then Bucky's like, tell him I met him in such and such place, at a cafe, at a bar or a cafe somewhere. At that place, you let him know, he'll recognize me. So the kid disappears into the house and comes and opens the door. And we see this really old guy, and he's like, I didn't believe when I heard, I just wanted to see if you were alive. And we find out that this guy, Isaiah Bradley, was actually one of the recipients of the super soldier serum. And we find out that, they did try to replicate the serum that was given to Steve Rogers, and they tried to use it on multiple people, and most of them didn't survive. Isaiah was one of the few who survived. And he also lets out that, and he's like, what I got for being a hero, for doing work for my country? I was imprisoned for 30 years and then used like a lab rat. So they basically drew samples, they did tests and experiments on him for like 3 decades. So he's pretty bitter about it, and he refuses to help Sam and Bucky. And so they're disheartened and they just leave. And Sam's really mad. He's like, you never told me there were other, other people who, 70 years ago who had been given the super soldier serum. Does Steve know about this? And Bucky's like, no, I never told Steve. And they're kind of having an argument. And as the argument picks up, some police guys who are patrolling come by, they stop and they try to break up the argument. And they ask Sam for his ID. Now, Sam is an Avenger, okay? He's the Falcon. He's the Avenger, an Avenger. And these police guys don't recognize him. They ask him for an ID. And he's like, no way, I'm not giving you an ID, And then slowly these police guys realize their mistakes. They're like, oh my goodness, these guys are Avengers. They are heroes, I'm sorry. But then they run the information back to their headquarters, and they come back and they tell Bucky, see, Mr. Barnes, we've got like a warrant for your arrest because you missed your court-mandated therapy session. So they end up taking Bucky into custody and taking him away to the police station. At the police station, Bucky is released. All of a sudden, he's released. And who is responsible for getting him released is John Walker, the new Captain America. The John Walker is like, okay, I know you're therapist. I pulled some strings and I got you out and all. He's trying to gain their favor. So the therapist shows up and she's like, okay, come on, we'll have this thing. A condition to your release is that you have a therapy session now. So Bucky and Sam sit together and they're and things do not go well during the therapy session. And it's during the therapy session that, you get a more deeper insight as to why Bucky is so pissed with Sam. Because Bucky is like, he tells Sam, see, Steve trusted you with that shield. He believed it belonged to you. He trusted you. And he was wrong in trusting you because you just handed it off to someone else. So maybe if he was wrong about you, he could have been wrong about me. So we get an idea that this guy who has had someone in his, whose mind has been controlled for well over 70 to 75 years. He's never had full control of his own mind. He's got his insecurities and we get a deeper idea as to the dynamic and the insecurities he's got. What's really going on, what he's really feeling, how much he regrets all that he's done and how it's affecting him. So anyway, these two guys say, Sam and Bucky are like, okay, we'll do this one job together and then we will just part ways. We will not, we won't ever cross paths again. And they just walk off out of the police station. Now, cut to the Flag Smashers. Now, the Flag Smashers are the group, like I said, they want the world to go back to how it was before the blip. They want like one world, one people, that sort of thing. So they seem to have stolen some merchandise from someone and they're loading up this plane. So while they're loading up this plane, they see a whole lot of cars are coming after them. So one of the Flag Smashers says like, it's the power broker guy. He's come after us. He sent his men. So now who is this power broker guy? So they're just sort of dangling these little threads, these little nuggets, of information. So who is this guy? So this one guy, one Flag Smasher is like, it's okay, you guys go ahead. I'll try to distract them. He sort of says, basically he's sacrificing himself so that the others can get away. And he goes and he, tries to stop the guys in the cars and he gets shot down. And you see that the girl who was pretending to be a hostage, right? She seems to be somewhat the ringleader, the one who's coordinating everything. And she's sort of, you can see tears in her eyes. So these guys are actually they're pretty close. They're a pretty tight-knit group. So this one guy who stands as a decoy, he ends up dead. And the plane manages to take off and they escape. Cut back to Bucky and Sam. Now, Bucky and Sam are like, okay, what do we do? And as they exit the police station, there's John Walker and his friend, his best friend. They're both standing there waiting for him. And they once again try to get them to join them. And then Bucky and Sam are like, no, we can't do this. You guys work with the government. You've got restrictions. You've got all sorts of things holding you back. We're sort of like free agents. We don't hold to those rules. So even if, we can't join together, we wouldn't gel, we wouldn't mesh. We'd only be getting in each other's way. And sort of they turn down their offer yet again, walk off. And at this point, Walker's had enough. He's like, okay, you guys don't want to join, just don't get in our way, sort of. So at this point, I'm wondering, John Walker seems like a good guy, but he does seem to be antagonistic in certain ways. Like, he respects the hell out of Captain America, the original Captain America, Steve Rogers. And he really has him, respects him, has him on a pedestal, but he doesn't seem to, relay the same respect to Bucky and Sam. He's more like, he treats them like, like sidekicks and sort of talks down to them pretty often. So I've got a feeling his antagonistic role is going to increase. Whether he'll out and out become a villain, I don't know. It's too early to tell. So now Sam and Bucky are like, okay, when they spoke to Isaiah Bradley, the old guy, he's like, okay, the government did all tests on me. Your people did all tests on me. So when he said your people, at that time, Bucky was working for Hydra. So Bucky's like, Hydra would have known. They must have known. Now, the use of this super soldier serum, it goes back a lot, because if we see in The Incredible Hulk, Thunderbolt Ross gives a a version of the serum to Tim Roth's character. And that's how Abomination is found. Now this movie was before Captain America made his debut in the MCU. It's like, so as far as 13 years ago, we've got links. So they've been working on this for quite some time. So Bucky is like, remember Isaiah said your people. So Hydra was also involved. And there is one guy who knows a lot more about Hydra than even I do. And who's that guy? Zemo. We do know that Zemo was captured and is in custody. Now, from the trailers, we have seen that Zemo is probably going to be playing one of the villains. From this, I don't know how he ties into the Flag Smashers or the Power Broker, or how he ties in, but he is going to be one of the main antagonists. So they decide to go off and see, they decide to go off and meet Zemo, and that's where they end this. Now, on the whole, this episode I felt would have been is more like a companion episode to the previous episode. The previous episode, we got an idea of each character as an individual, where they are post the blip. We saw how Bucky is doing. We saw how Sam and his family are doing, and we got a basic idea of how the characters are positioned, what they're going through, how they, what is their current situation in life. And this episode and the previous episode basically just set up everything. We got a look into their lives and their current situations, but the plot wise did not move at all. This episode though moved leaps and bounds plot wise. They've set up all the threads. They've let us, they've dangled so many things down. Now we need to see how the connections are made. Now this does make me wonder, would it have been better if they had dropped the first and the second episode, because they do feel like companion episodes. Hopefully maybe a lot like what they did for WandaVision, but then again, the first two episodes for WandaVision were 30 minutes each. These episodes ranked above 45 minutes each. So maybe that's why. But I do believe it could have benefited in a way if they had dropped the first two episodes together. Then again, they're trying to drag this out because I think it's a 6-episode series. And if that's so, then these first two episodes are over. We've almost finished the first act of a basically 6-hour movie. So I'm interested in seeing where this is headed. I will tell you, not a very big fan of the first episode. I love the character building that they did and stuff, but I wanted more plot wise. And this episode gave me that. It gave me like the mystery, the spy, and the buddy cop, we got more of the buddy cop feel, the bromance between Sam and Bucky, we got more of their dynamic, and I'm interested in seeing how it is going on further ahead, how all these various plot points, join together. I do hope doesn't become too hastily, put together. I hope it runs its course properly. So far what I'm getting, it's a bit too early to tell how this series will progress, but what they have given me so far, I am a big fan of. So what did you think? Have you watched this episode? Did you enjoy it? What are your theories? What are your thoughts moving on further ahead? Do you think this series so far is better than WandaVision, or do you think WandaVision is a bit more up there? For me personally, it's a bit too early to tell. I do need to get a little more matter, a little more meat into it, and then I'll be able to, have a better idea of where exactly this series ranks for me. Well, that's all I have for you right now. So you can always contact me on Twitter simply at Mercy_D. You can contact me on Instagram simply at Mercy_SD. Don't forget to check out the Funny Pajamas Facebook page simply at funny.pajamas. And you can always email me on my email address simply on mercy@funny-pajamas.com. Pajamas with a Y. And don't forget to check out the Funny Pajamas website. That's www.funny-pajamas.com. Need I say it? Pajamas with a Y. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love to hear from you. Love to talk to you. Hit me down in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. Remember, this is spoiler heavy, so go ahead, spoil away. Okay? So that's all I have for you right now. This is Mercy signing out. Bye. Have a good one.